welcome to Getting to Know You with John Metz. With John Metz. Uh, I am your one-time and only host, Chelsea Duffy, who does communication on the stewardship committee. And John and I were talking about how I won the auction item to do a Getting to Know You brunch with John Metz. And of course, I immediately twisted and said, no, let's do an interview. Let's talk about ways to stay connected at the parish. And let's get to know John Metz, because you've been featuring so many amazing people at both St. Catherine's and St. Sebastian's. And we haven't gotten to hear from you directly. So one, thank you for this and just being down for having this conversation. And why don't we start off with you just telling a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let me start by saying thank you, Chelsea. This is a fun idea. I'm much more comfortable asking people questions and not having to come up with the content. So a little bit, I am feeling a little on the spot right now. But I also I'd like to take a second to just say, well, first of all, thanks for your contribution to the parish for this donation item. But also thank you to your contribution to the parish, just with everything you've done. I mean, look at, you are so represented even in your background right now. Slide over to the right a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've got the logos right here. This is what happens when you have a Canva account and let it go to your head. It's great. Yeah.
But all of the cool, the great social media posts and how uniform and design conscious all of our media has been lately, that's been thanks to you. So, thank you for your dedication to the parish.
Yeah. And thank you for everything you do. I don't know about you, but getting to know you has been just like a lifeline during the pandemic. Getting to know everybody at both parishes, I feel like I get done listening to one of your interviews and I'm like, there's like literally a saint sitting next to me in the pew on Sunday that I barely know about, that I got to know through these interviews. Yes. So tell me, where did the idea come from? Where did it all start?
Oh, yeah, good question. And I would love to share that story. Well, the truth is I missed my lifelong calling as a talk show host and find a way to live that out. But in addition to that, I came on board to the parish just in my part-time role as adult formation minister in the middle of the pandemic. It's similar to the timing you came to the parish. There was very little happening, and I didn't know how to, one, get to know people, very honestly, but two, know how to make any kind of impact and carry my weight as a minister in the church. And so I had done a few different interviews for a different parish I had worked with as a way to explore different issues of social justice. It was kind of pandemic related also. And I thought, maybe I'll just continue that going. But instead of having like a strong agenda, I was like, I think all I really want to know is I want to get to know people. The secondary part of that was I often will say, and I just wrote a reflection in Reflections of Faith about this, about just being a community builder. I think as a minister of the church, and I very much consider myself a minister of the church, I often will say, I think my foundational starting role is as community builder. And once we build community, then you can do it. The sky's the limit. Once the community is there, build it and they will come, kind of a thing. And so I'm always focused on how can we build relationships, make connections, cultivate that community, and then we can talk about faith. Then we can talk about the commitments and the things that we need in the church. Once people are engaged and invested and kind of see this as their home, people will do anything for you, and you can do stuff together. So it was kind of those three things: me wanting to be a talk show host, two, looking for something to do in the middle of a desert that was the pandemic, and three, knowing that I wanted something that was going to build community. And so I mistakenly said I misjudged this, but I think we've done about 50 interviews now. Really, a lot of the people I knew, because I had to go based on some of the connections I had, but I've gotten to know so many people that I didn't know. I agree with you that the the saints that are in our parish, our parishes, are incredible.
Yeah.
It has felt like an absolute privilege just to kind of like push record and then say, tell me about how awesome you are. And then people share how awesome they are. And I'm just like, this is us. This is who we are. Look at all the gifts we have. And one of the goals I also wanted to highlight was like, I wanted to pick people that were doing cool, amazing things in the city and say like, look at the people that call this home. Look at how they are affecting Milwaukee and the greater southeastern Wisconsin. And it was like, I mean, you've seen them, they're so cool, including yourself. You know, you and I did an interview over a year ago.
Yeah, but there's like Milwaukee celebrity Derek Mosley way up here, and then there's like Chelsea Duffy down here. Like some of these were just amazing. Mike Duffy reporting from, what was it, Fort McCoy, as he's helping Afghan refugees.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe such cool people are part of our community, but here we are. It's amazing. And thank you for that opportunity to get to know everyone like that. It's been great.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was just such a privilege for me. I mean, it felt like such privilege just to kind of like share in these people's stories. And one of the things you asked me about me, little transition. I'm wearing my Marquette sweatshirt because I said to Chelsea before we started recording, I'm going to be more casual because I'm not the interviewer, I'm the interviewee. In my other life, I teach theology at Marquette University, and I'm always I'm trying to get across to my students that in our stories is one, when we are able to tell our stories, we get to know each other. And when we get to know each other, we care about each other. And so I'm always encouraging, especially when talking about issues of social justice, I'm like, what you need to know what the story is. You know, we so often, and this is reflected in my bulletin columns, so often we make quick judgments on people. That just, because that's human nature. We make judgments when we talk, when we see someone, we just make a judgment. That's just part of what it is to be human. The problem is when we like lean into those judgments and don't go gather any more information. And so I'm always encouraging my students, like, learn the story, find out what's happening. How did someone get to the situation they're in before you write them off or assume the worst about them? And so it's in the telling of the stories that's amazing. And it just has felt like such a privilege just to hear everyone's stories. And like, I just feel richer knowing like, gosh, we are part of St. Catherine's and St. Sebastian's community. And like, what a richness of gifts, diversity, of goodwill and good-heartedness that we have in these communities. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Well, shifting gears a little bit, can you just tell me more about your faith life? What is it like right now? Has there been anything new that's been tugging at your heart? Just share a little bit about your faith life right now.
Yeah. I'd be happy to. Faith is obviously important to me. I would joke. I will often joke with people. I'll say ministry is the family business because my mom has been a minister in the church, pastoral associate at St. Anthony on the Lake for 30 years. She runs one of the largest family catechetical programs in the country. And I grew up, like I would get picked up from school and go volunteer at the church. That's just, I always grew up in the church. It's just a very comfortable place for me. And Lisa, my wife, is a theology teacher at Divine Savior Holy Angels. So family business, we're doing a lot of ministry in my house. So I kind of joke that ministry is in my bones, and that I've actively tried to leave ministry for a long time because I just, it takes a lot of emotional and your own spiritual energy to do that. And so I had left, I had meant to leave ministry to go get I went and got a master's degree in social work. I wanted to be a counselor. And I just kept getting pulled back into ministry. And I know that's different than faith, and I'm going to clarify that in a second. I just kept getting pulled back into ministry, finally to the point where I said, I guess God, you are calling me to always be a minister in the church, and maybe I just have to accept that.
So what, were you driving along one day, saw a burning bush and went, okay, God,
Yeah,
I guess so.
Pretty much. No, it was just like every other door kept closing and these doors kept opening, and I kept saying, but I do think that being a minister has, been a good use of my skill set, which is, even my social work counseling background. I do spend a lot of time talking to individuals about what they struggle with and what their joys are too. I get, the baptism prep I do, or the RCA I do, the interpersonal skills has been really great, but also just sharing in faith. And so the ministry has been an extension of my faith journey, which has been rooted in a friend. I will joke that I work at a Jesuit institution with a Franciscan heart. Very rooted in, I spent a lot of time at Cardinal Stritch University, and very rooted in this Franciscan idea of the celebration of a creationist theology of a God that created all of us and loves us, and it just wants goodness for us. And so that's my perspective a lot of times, and I want to share that with other people. I spent the last year actually doing the spiritual exercises with the spiritual director at Marquette. And that has been a great gift, in which I am asked to pray every 5 times a week for a significant period of time, like 15 to 30 minutes. And then I meet with a spiritual director once a week, and we kind of go through the process of the spiritual exercises that St. Ignatius developed. And I have found that I'm really knowing that unconditional love and acceptance of God in a way that I hadn't before. I've always known on a head level, and I've been able to share with people as a minister, God loves you unconditionally. But then when I sat down in that quiet prayer every day, I really started to struggle with me. God, you love me, because I know all the thoughts in my head. I know all of the bad decisions I've made. I know all of the judgments I've made on people. I know kind of the twistedness that is John Metz. And I thought, God, how could you love me? And it sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but it was really something I struggled with. And I sat with that for last fall for about 2 months. And slowly, it wasn't a light switch, it was a revelation over time, in which I really felt like I came to understand that even though I'm not a finished product, that God loves me in a full and honest way. And I don't have to be all the way fixed for God to love me, but that also motivates me to want to be better. So that's a little bit about my spirituality.
Well, and I feel like, aren't we all always our own worst critic? Like, anytime you come to self-reflection, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? And it's encouraging for a layperson like me to hear that from you, because as you're talking about doing these Ignatian spiritual exercises, I'm lucky during my morning coffee in the morning to get out a please God help me get through this day. So, maybe reflect on, how did your faith journey develop over time? Because I'm sure when you were growing up, you weren't doing these 15 to 30 minute, 5 day a week, intense spiritual exercises. Where did you start, or where would you recommend others to start as you're just bringing your faith into your everyday life?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up in the church. My mom was always this minister, so it was always part of my background. Like, it was in the background, it was always there. And there was a part of me in my early teen years that wanted to reject that, because whatever, that's what mom does, and I'm too cool for school and all that. And it wasn't until I started doing some active service, going on my first service trip, and that, like, it was that faith in action. Something clicked in me. I very much look to John John 13, the washing of the feet, as a model that spurred my spirituality, because it was like, oh, I understand this now. I understand a faith that's a doing faith, a serving faith. And I understood the washing of the feet as like Jesus flipping the narrative on its head, where our culture is all about power and success and getting ahead. And Jesus said, you know what I kind of think is real about leadership? You look at Jesus. Jesus says, you look at me as a leader. I'm going to flip that on its head. I'm going to actually get humble. I'm going to get on my knees. I'm going to wash feet. And there was something about that. I thought, that's the secret to life. A life of service is exactly what it's all about. And something just clicked in my head. And ever since I was 17, 18 years old, I just felt like I understood faith in a new way that has propelled me into, I'm 42 now, all the way to where I am now. Very, very much been the motivation for me. And people that have known me well know that that's an important reading for me. In my office, I have a statue of the washing of the feet that Lisa gave to me because we used that as a reading at our wedding. Yeah, as a kind of we wanted to model our marriage after. And so that doing faith and kind of being in service to people, and it doesn't always have to be like physical labor service. It could just be like being present to someone, just to kind of look at the other and say, what do you need today? That is how I've kind of tried to model my ministry, my faith, and my life.
Well, speaking of Lisa, we should talk about your family, because everyone is wonderful and Lisa is the best. And we see both of you and your kids all the time around St. Sebastian, St. Catherine. Maybe start with telling, like, how did you and Lisa meet? How did you propose? I don't know. I'm getting into the girly stories, but there are listeners who want to know. So tell us how you met.
Lisa and I actually met. We were friends first. We met doing a service trip in Milwaukee it's an old archdiocesan program called Reach Out, Reach In. And we had both brought students there, and we got to know each other doing that. And then we got to know each other even more, as romantic as it is, at taking a class together. We got to know each other at Sacred Heart at St. Francis Seminary, in which we took a morality class. So we continued just to get to know each other, kind of in the family business model, and then that grew into a relationship, and it was very. It continues to be very life-giving to me. Since you asked, I wasn't going to share this, but since you asked how I proposed, the night I proposed, I gave Lisa a little 6 sole ring. I had taken a mission trip to Peru, and the sole is about. No, I'm sorry. It was a 3 sole ring. It was. A sole is about $3. And so it was like a very cheap little silver ring that I bought on the side of the road in Piura, Peru, when I was on a mission trip. And I just took a guess and it fit her. That was a miracle. It was a miracle, but it meant a lot. And she continued. She still has that ring. It was so cheap, it's broken a couple times. But I gave her that ring, and we went and got Shamrock Shakes from McDonald's. And then we went and saw our favorite singer-songwriter, Peter Mayer, do a concert. That was the night we got engaged. So that's kind of that. I think that is maybe says a lot about us, right? So a cheap ring that has important context in the act of service. Something delicious and fun and food orientated, and then celebrating life through beautiful music.
I love it. Especially the Shamrock Shakes. That's just perfect right there. And then your kids, Nate and Maria, how old are both of they now?
Yeah, Maria's 13 and Nate's 11. And I mean, man, I am very grateful all the time for my children. They're wonderful. They're at school at St. Sebastian's, and we always joke, Lisa and I joke that Maria really takes after Lisa. Nate takes after me. Nate has a lot of empathy and is very sensitive.
I've seen that. So full disclosure, I'm sitting usually behind you in mass with my 3-year-old son, and I see how sweet and just calm your son Nate is. Meanwhile, my kid is like bouncing off the walls, and I'm like, please, Lord, let me have a kid like Nate, just nice and chill and sweet and empathetic. We got plenty of years for that, but I see that.
He's
I see
whispering in my
that
ear.
like rest his head on Lisa's shoulder, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
yes.
He's a sweetheart for sure. You're not seeing that he's whispering in our ears, can I go to the bathroom now? But
yeah.
And Maria is so wonderful too in her own way, but she's so independent and assured, and she and that really, I think, takes after Lisa, where Lisa is very put together, where I'm always kind of a mess. And
but no, it's a good thing for a woman to be independent in the world, so she's on the right track. That's a good thing.
Such different gifts, and I love them both, and it's just been a joy to be a parent.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's spin off of this a little bit more with just your involvement in the parish and what options are there for us to keep involved like we have been in the future, because we've had this amazing YouTube series where we get to know each other, but you're planning things all the time, and I know you have more in store. So what do you recommend for just keeping up this community building and this sense of getting to know one another?
Well, it's a work in progress, right? It's always a work in progress. And it's been especially challenging coming out of the pandemic, which I very much feel like we are. I hope I'm not naive. I have been fooled once, twice, and 3 times, but I have hope that we are on our way out of this. I think that continuing to show up and get to know each other, and maybe that's going to take look more in person, but like the initiatives you have started with Maggie Mackesy, this the moms group has been such a life-giving thing, and Matthew, your husband, starting the men's group has been such a wonderful thing. As we're recording this, we're like halfway through Lent, and enjoying the soup and substance program that was something that I said, let's get some food and let's get some good topics. And, we recently had Derek Mosley speak. There was over 100 people in the parish hall, and it was amazing. It was just so wonderful just to see people. And I always joke that programs like the loaves and fishes, I originally asked for 5 soups, which wouldn't be enough. But last week we had 15 soups. And what I mean is people make soup at home, they bring it, they show up, and they serve it. And it's just been awesome. It's been so wonderful. So programs like that, I think, continue to be helpful. One more program I'll plug is that Chelsea, you were a group leader for our Alpha program that we'll plan to do next fall again, which is like a 10-week, 12-week session where we meet for dinner or breakfast. If you're at St. Catherine's, we had met for breakfast, dinner at St. Sebastian's, and we have dinner and then watch a video series and have a small group discussion. And I know that sounds like a big commitment, but like it felt like, oh, there's a night I don't have to cook for myself, and I just come and I enjoy a meal, and then we have a little talk about faith and get a little enrichment. And I think that was really life-giving for everyone that came. I often think community building should revolve around food.
Yes, I agree 100%. Well, and I mean, just to plug Alpha even more,
sure.
I was so privileged as a leader just to get to listen to each person that was part of my small group, their own faith life, things that resonated with them. It was the same feeling I got while watching the Getting to Know You videos, where I'm like, I'm sitting next to saints. These people are amazing. And I think that's such a wonderful opportunity. And I know other participants felt the same, where like getting to share our faith with one another. We don't get many opportunities to do that going about our regular lives, going back and forth to work and the school drop-off line. To have that dedicated time, food most certainly doesn't hurt. The videos are high quality productions with excellent reflection questions that really get the conversation going. It's a great experience, and I'm so glad that you brought it to Seb's and Catherine's, because it was really just an amazing experience. So thank you.
I just want to echo your echo. I think that these conversations are not like overly complicated. They're very simple, talking about faith, but they're not conversations that we find natural ways to have in our culture today. And so programs like Alpha provide this safe space to say, hey, here's a safe place. Tell me about what's important to you. Tell me about what you struggle with. Tell me about, something that you're really excited about. And then like once you provide that safe space, really rich dialogue is able to happen. And that, again, it goes back to the beginning that I was talking about sharing stories. Then we're sharing our stories, and that's really how we get to know each other, and that's how we get to be a part of each other's lives. So continued efforts like that are what I want to continue to see at both of our parishes, and also the bridging of the two communities, which I hope getting to know you has been a little bit too, is here Catherine's can get to know Sebs, and Sebs can get to know Catherine's. Soup and Substance has been this, it's been all at St. Sebastian's, but the St. Catherine's has shown up. There's been such a large contingency of St. Catherine's.
If I've learned anything about St. Catherine folks, is they are not shy. No. Bernadette once yelled for me across the sanctuary at St. Catherine's, "Is that Chelsea Duffy I see?" And I'm like, she really is emblematic of the St. Catherine spirit. They show up. They are just happy to share. It was the same with Alpha when we had group sessions. It just, they dive in, and I absolutely love it. I love it.
It's great. And you're not the only person to say that. I did RCA with a woman and her fiance last year, and they have since, this was a St. Sebastian's connection, and not since then they have joined St. Catherine's, and they're going to get married at St. Catherine's. So it's just such this cool thing that's been happening.
And there's so much we can learn from one another. Like, nobody is a stranger the second you step into St. Catherine's. And if you are a stranger, they are rectifying that within the first 30 seconds of you being in the building. And that's just what it's like there. And I think that speaks a lot to what church should be and what we should all aspire to. And so it's great. It's great.
Absolutely. And is also, I would say, one of the first ways that I experienced the cultivation of those two communities blending together was through Facing Racism too.
Yes.
I mean, just so many cool things happening. We just have to like lean back into them post-pandemic and kind of keep showing up and coming to mass and saying hi to each other, and then finding other opportunities to engage in each other's life. And I just think they're going to happen naturally. I don't think we have to overly schedule them or overly instigate them. I think, but I think there's just a draw because of the amazing people that are part of our parishes.
Well, before we wrap up this interview, I have to ask the question that you ask everybody at the end of the Getting to Know You interviews. What are your hopes for the future?
As you're saying that, I'm like, I don't know.
I listened to these. I remembered.
Yeah, you're good. It's a hard question when you're on this side of it, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very open-ended. It's perfect.
See, that was my social work background, asking that question. My hope for the future is the momentum continues to grow. Rooted in that cultivating of community, which I think is important foundational work for any parish family. How do we continue to cultivate that sense of family, that sense of community, that sense of coming home? I'm just remembering a story from Anne Lamont's book, Traveling Mercies. The story she tells is that a little boy gets lost in his neighborhood, and a police officer picks him up, and he says, "Well, where do you live?" And the little boy says, "I don't know. I'm 5. I'm not really sure." And so they start driving. The police officer, not knowing what to do, starts driving around. "Tell me if you see anything familiar." And the police officer drives up to past the church, and the little boy says, "That's my church. I know where home is from here." And that's my hope, is that our church communities always feel like home. We always know our way home because of the communities that they are. Catholic churches have struggled in the last 20 years, and I know that our mass attendance continues to lower. People have lost faith in institution, but I do think, at least I have found in my experience, much more goodness than not goodness. And I hope that people know that and continue to find that, and then continue to build what that is, build the church that they want to see by showing up, by sharing their stories, and by trusting one another and sharing in each other's lives. That's my hope.
Excellent. Well, thank you for this. And I can't believe it's over. I wish it could go on forever, but I'm really encouraged knowing there are things like Soup and Substance, Alpha, and all the other activities of both parishes that can keep us connected going forward. So thank you so much, John.
Thanks, Kelsey. You made this super easy. I didn't want to be on the other side of the internet. You are a natural. You should talk show.
A talk show. Yep. That's definitely in my future.
Like you have any more time.
Like I have any more time. Exactly. Well, okay. Actually, speaking of that, if I can put in one final plug. So hopefully around the time of this launching, we'll be getting ready to launch the new parish website for St. Sebastian. Yeah. And it's new for the parish and the school as well. It's new, it's shiny. I'm very excited about it. Father Patrick, God bless him, he just would hear me complain about the website, and he's like, she's a millennial with opinions. I'm just going to let her fix it. And he let me go for it. And I've been very excited about this project. I've been getting a lot of great parishioner feedback, but if everybody could go and check that out, lend me your thoughts, because I know my priority has been, how do we just give people a peek into this amazing community that we have? Like online communication is only going to go so far to show how wonderful the people are, how deep this community is. And I'm just hoping our website starts the conversation, whether it's with parishioners who are already active or completely new people trying to find that sense of home. So thank you for letting me have my plug for the new website. Great. I've been putting way too much work into it, so I need the excitement.
It looks great too, so thank you for that.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all I have.
Okay, you got a sign off. That's on you. I'm not doing it.
Okay. Oh, sign off. Well, I hope you're going to edit this because I have no idea how to do a sign off. How do we do a sign off?
You know what I always do? I thank the person for the interview.
Okay.
And then I say, blessings on your journey.
All right. Well, John Metz, thank you for this interview and blessings on your journey.
Thanks, Chelsea. You too. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.